You're not disrespected because people are stronger than you. You're disrespected because somewhere, silently, you agreed to be small. You didn't say it out loud. You didn't sign anything. But every time you stayed quiet when you should have spoken, every time you laughed off something that hit your chest like a punch, every time you avoided confrontation to stay comfortable, you trained the world how to treat you. And now you feel it. In conversations where your voice gets ignored. In rooms where your presence doesn't shift energy. In relationships where you give more than you get. That quiet anger you carry, that's not random. That's your mind telling you. You've been playing weak in a world that only respects strength. But here's the shift. Smart people don't react to disrespect emotionally. They convert it into power. And once you understand how they do it, everything changes. Because disrespect is not an attack. It's a test. And right now, you're either passing or exposing yourself. There's a moment that decides everything. It's fast, almost invisible. Someone says something dismissive, a subtle insult, a joke at your expense, a tone that signals you're beneath them. Your brain fires instantly. Emotion rises. Heart rate spikes. Your body wants to react. This is where most people lose. They either explode or they shrink. Both are weak. Exploding means you're controlled. Shrinking means you're dominated. Smart people do something different. They pause. Not a soft pause. A controlled pause. Because in that pause, they take back control of the situation. Your brain runs on dopamine and survival patterns. When disrespected, your limbic system, the emotional center, wants instant reaction. It craves relief. It pushes you to respond quickly just to reduce discomfort. But high-level individuals train a different circuit. They delay response. That delay creates authority. Because the person who controls time in a conversation controls the conversation. When someone disrespects you and you instantly react, you're predictable, easy to manipulate, easy to dominate. But when you go still, when your eyes lock, when your face doesn't change, you create psychological pressure. Now they're uncomfortable. Now they're second-guessing. Now you flip the frame. This isn't theory. This is biology mixed with social dominance. Humans are wired to read reactions. When there's no reaction, the brain fills the gap with uncertainty. And uncertainty creates tension. That tension is power. Most people are addicted to comfort. They want smooth conversations, no friction, no conflict. That addiction is why they tolerate disrespect. You've trained yourself to avoid discomfort at all costs. That ends now. Because discomfort is the price of respect. And if you can't pay that price, you'll always live beneath your potential. Think about your life right now. Where are you tolerating things you shouldn't? At work, with friends, in relationships. Every time you let something slide, you're not being nice. You're lowering your status. And people feel that. Not consciously, but deeply. Respect isn't given because you're kind. It's given because you're solid. Unshakable. Predictable in your standards. Dangerous when crossed. Smart people don't overreact. But they also don't ignore. They respond with precision. A simple look. A controlled sentence. A shift in tone. That's it. No drama. No explanation. No emotional leakage. Because the more you explain yourself, the weaker you appear. Power speaks less. And when it speaks, it lands. There's a technique you need to master. It's called emotional compression. When disrespected, instead of releasing emotion outward, you compress it inward. You hold it. You control it. You channel it. That energy doesn't disappear. It transforms. It sharpens your voice. It steadies your posture. It slows your breathing. Now when you respond, it's not emotional. It's calculated. And calculated responses create fear. Not loud fear. Quiet fear. The kind that makes people think twice before crossing you again. Your body matters more than your words. If your shoulders drop, you lose. If your eyes shift, you lose. If your voice cracks, you lose. Your body is broadcasting your internal state at all times. Smart people train their body like a weapon. Stand straight, not stiff. Controlled. Move slowly. Never rushed. Hold eye contact just a second longer than comfortable. That slight discomfort? That's dominance. Your voice needs to change too. Most people speak fast when they're emotional. They rush. They stumble. They lose authority. Slow down. Lower your tone. Pause between sentences. Silence is not weakness. Silence is pressure. Say less. Mean more. Instead of explaining why something bothered you, say, "Watch how you talk to me." And stop. That's it. No follow-up. No justification. Now the weight is on them. You're not asking for respect. You're setting a boundary, and boundaries are the foundation of power. Here's the deeper truth most people avoid. You don't attract disrespect randomly. You train it through your habits, your posture, your tone, your energy. If you're addicted to dopamine, constant scrolling, instant gratification, distractions, you weaken your ability to handle pressure. Your brain becomes soft, and soft minds avoid confrontation. You need to rebuild your nervous system. Cold showers, hard workouts, focused work sessions with no distractions. These aren't motivational tricks. They are neurological training. You're teaching your brain to stay calm under stress. Because disrespect is stress. And if you can't handle stress, you can't command respect. Fear is another factor. You're afraid of conflict, afraid of rejection, afraid of losing people. But understand this clearly. If someone only respects you when you're easy to deal with, they never respected you. You were just convenient. Smart people are willing to lose people. That's why they gain respect. Because they're not negotiating their standards. They'd rather stand alone than be surrounded by people who see them as weak. That mindset changes everything. You stop chasing approval. You start commanding presence. There's a moment coming in your life soon. A test. Someone will challenge you, subtly or directly, and your old self will try to take over. It will tell you to laugh it off. Ignore it. Stay quiet. But now you know. That moment decides your identity. Not in theory. In reality. Because identity is built through action under pressure. You don't become strong by thinking about it. You become strong by acting differently when it matters. Let's go deeper. Most people think respect comes from success, money, status, achievements. Wrong. Respect comes from how you handle tension. You can be broke and respected. You can be rich and disrespected. Because respect is about presence, not possessions. When tension rises, do you collapse or do you stabilize the environment? That's what people are measuring. Your nervous system is your true power. If it's unstable, your life will be unstable. If it's controlled, everything around you bends. This is why discipline matters. Waking up when you don't feel like it. Working when you're distracted. Pushing when you're tired. You're not just building productivity. You're building control. And control is the foundation of confidence. Not fake confidence. Real confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation. The kind that doesn't react impulsively. The kind that can sit in silence and still dominate the room. There's another layer. Social intelligence. Smart people don't treat every disrespect the same. Some situations require silence. Some require a direct response. Some require walking away completely. The key is reading intent. Is the person testing you? Or just unaware? If it's a test, respond with strength. If it's ignorance, correct calmly. If it's repeated behavior, remove access. Access is power. Not everyone deserves it. Stop giving your time and energy to people who lower your value. Every interaction either builds your status or destroys it. Choose carefully. There's a dangerous habit you need to eliminate. Over-explaining. When you feel disrespected, you try to justify your feelings. You talk too much. You try to be understood. That's weakness. You don't need to be understood. You need to be respected. And respect doesn't come from long explanations. It comes from clear boundaries. Short, direct, final. Another realization. Disrespect hurts because it hits your identity. You feel small, less than, invisible. Good. Use that. That pain is fuel. Instead of avoiding it, study it. Where exactly did it hit? Why did it trigger you? That's your weakness. And once you identify it, you can train it. Turn insecurity into strength. Turn reaction into control. Turn pain into discipline. This is how transformation happens. Not through motivation. Through confrontation. With yourself. Your habits. Your patterns. Your excuses. You've been avoiding this version of yourself for too long. The version that speaks up. The version that holds eye contact. The version that doesn't tolerate nonsense. That version exists. But it's buried under comfort. Under fear. Under years of playing small. Now it's time to dig it out. Every day, you need to train. Not just physically, mentally. Put yourself in controlled discomfort. Speak up in small situations. Hold your ground in minor conflicts. Practice saying no. Build that muscle. Because when the big moment comes, you won't rise to the occasion. You'll fall to your training. And if you haven't trained, you already know what happens. Let's raise the intensity. Imagine your future if nothing changes. Same patterns. Same reactions. Same respect level. 5 years from now, you're still being overlooked, still being talked over, still feeling that quiet frustration. That's not fear. That's reality. Now imagine the opposite. You walk into a room and people feel it. Not because you're loud, because you're controlled. Your presence shifts energy. Your words carry weight. Your boundaries are clear. That life is not far away. It's built in moments. Small decisions. Micro behaviors repeated daily. Handling disrespect is not about winning arguments. It's about establishing identity. Who are you when tested? That's the only question that matters. And right now, you have a choice. Stay the same, or step into pressure and become someone people think twice before crossing. Because once you change how you respond, you change how the world treats you. And once the world treats you differently, your entire life shifts. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't react. Don't shrink. Don't explain. Pause. Look. Speak with control. Set the boundary. And mean it, because in that moment, you're not just responding to them. You're deciding who you are. You're not tired. You're undisciplined. That sting you feel when someone cuts you off, ignores you, talks over you. That's not disrespect. That's exposure. Exposure of a version of you that hasn't been trained to command space. And the world doesn't respect potential. It respects proof. Right now, you're walking around with silent frustration, replaying moments where you should have spoken, should have stood taller, should have shut something down, but you didn't. And every time that happens, your identity weakens. But that ends here. Because you're about to build a version of yourself that doesn't get disrespected, not because people are nice, but because your presence makes disrespect a risk. There was a moment where everything shifted. A room full of noise. Conversations overlapping. Status games being played in real time. And in that room, two types of people existed. The loud ones, trying to be seen. And the dangerous ones, who didn't need to try. The difference wasn't confidence. It was control. Control of emotion. Control of reaction. Control of energy. Smart people don't win by being louder. They win by being harder to move. Someone throws a subtle jab, a dismissive tone, a test, and most people jump. They defend. They explain. They react. That's the trap. Because the moment you react emotionally, you've already lost the frame. You're now playing their game. Smart people slow the moment down. They don't rush to respond. They let silence stretch just long enough to make the other person feel it. That silence. It's not empty. It's pressure. And pressure reveals hierarchy. You need to understand something most people never learn. Disrespect is rarely about words. It's about positioning. People test where you stand in the hierarchy. Not consciously, but instinctively. Your job is not to fight every word. Your job is to control the position. That starts with your body. If your body folds, your authority collapses. So you train it. Shoulders relaxed but grounded. Chin level. Eyes steady. No sudden movements. No nervous shifts. You don't look for approval. You don't look away first. You hold. Because the one who holds controls. Now your voice. Your voice is either a weapon or a signal of weakness. Most people speak too fast when pressure hits. Their words trip over each other. They try to fill space. You do the opposite. You slow down. You drop your tone. You remove unnecessary words. Don't talk to me like that. Pause. That's it. No explanation. No emotional leakage. You're not asking. You're stating. And statements create authority. Here's where it gets deeper. Your brain is addicted to comfort. Scrolling. Easy entertainment. Instant rewards. That constant dopamine flood is destroying your ability to handle tension. So when a real moment hits, conflict, disrespect, pressure, you fold. Because your brain isn't trained for resistance. You fix that through discipline. You start controlling your inputs. Less noise. More focus. You sit in discomfort without reaching for distraction. You train your nervous system to stay calm when everything in you wants to escape. Because that's what dominance actually is. Not aggression. Control under pressure. There's a pattern in your life you need to break. You tolerate small disrespects. A joke that crosses the line. A comment that lowers your value. A tone that signals you're beneath them. And you let it slide. You tell yourself it's not a big deal. But it is. Because small tolerances become identity. And identity becomes reality. Smart people cut it early. They don't wait for it to escalate. They address it immediately, but calmly. That's the key. Calm, not emotional. Because emotion makes it personal. Calm makes it strategic. You're not offended. You're adjusting the frame. And people feel that difference. There's another level most never reach. Selective silence. Not every disrespect deserves a response. Some people are beneath your attention, and attention is currency. If you give it to everyone, it loses value. So you choose. You respond where it matters. You ignore where it doesn't. That's power. Because now you're not reactive. You're intentional. And intentional people control outcomes. Fear is still there. Let's not lie about that. There's a part of you that hesitates. What if they don't like me? What if this creates tension? What if I lose the relationship? Good. Let it be there. But don't obey it. Because every time you choose comfort over respect, you reinforce weakness. And that compounds. Until one day, you look at your life and realize you've built it around avoiding discomfort. That's not living. That's surviving. And you weren't built to survive. You were built to lead your own environment, to set the tone, to control your space. There's a shift that happens when you commit to this. You stop chasing approval. You stop explaining yourself. You stop overthinking every interaction. You become simple, direct. Clear. And that clarity makes people adjust to you, not the other way around. Let's raise the pressure. Imagine the next time someone disrespects you. Not hypothetically. Real life. It's coming. A coworker crosses a line. A friend makes a joke that hits wrong. A stranger speaks with the wrong tone. Old you shrinks or reacts emotionally. New you pauses. Feels the tension. Controls breathing. Locks eye contact. Speaks slow. Don't do that again. Silence. Now watch what happens. Energy shifts. Because you didn't ask. You declared. And declaration is power. But this doesn't come from motivation. It comes from training. Daily. You build it through small actions. You say no when you want to say yes just to avoid conflict. You speak up in minor situations. You hold eye contact a second longer. You slow your speech intentionally. You remove filler words. You become sharper. Every day, this is identity rewiring. You're not trying to act confident. You're becoming someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect. And that difference changes everything. Because behavior driven by identity is automatic. No hesitation. No overthinking. Just action. That's where you're going. And if you stay consistent, you will get there. Not in years. In months. But only if you stop negotiating with your old habits. Because your old habits are designed to keep you comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of respect. Now listen carefully. There's someone in your life right now who doesn't fully respect you. You know it. You feel it. The tone. The behavior. The subtle signals. You've been ignoring it. Hoping it changes. It won't. Until you change. Until your response changes. Until your standard becomes clear. That's your test. And your growth is on the other side of that moment. So don't wait. Don't overthink. Act. Because every delay reinforces the old version of you. And every action builds the new one. Now it's time to lock this in. If you felt this, if something inside you just clicked, that's not motivation. That's recognition. You're recognizing the version of yourself you've been avoiding. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So here's what you do next. You don't just listen and move on. You commit. You train. You apply. Because information without action is useless. And you're not here to collect information. You're here to transform. If you're serious about building real confidence, discipline, and mental dominance, then this is your next step. Subscribe to the motivational audiobook spot. Because this isn't just content. This is conditioning. Every video is designed to rewire your mindset, sharpen your behavior, and build a version of you that doesn't break under pressure. Turn on notifications. Stay close to this environment. Because your surroundings shape your standards. And your standards shape your life. Now go prove to yourself that you're not who you used to be. Next time, and take your power back. Respect is not taken from you in one moment. It erodes slowly, every time you hesitate. Every time you swallow your words. Every time you let something slide just to keep the peace. Every time you choose comfort over confrontation. You think you're avoiding problems. You're not. You're building a reputation. A quiet one. A dangerous one. The kind that tells people you won't push back. And once that label sticks, people don't test you once. They test you constantly. Not because they hate you. Because they've learned you're safe to disrespect. That ends now. Because smart people don't fix disrespect by arguing. They fix it by upgrading their identity so high. Disrespect becomes expensive. There's a moment most people miss. Right before you get disrespected, there's a shift in energy. It's subtle. A change in tone. A slight lean forward. A look that lingers too long. A joke that carries a hidden edge. Your brain catches it. But you ignore it. Because you don't trust yourself enough to act. That hesitation is where you lose control. Smart people don't wait for full disrespect. They cut it at the signal. Early correction is power. Late reaction is damage control. And damage control always costs more. You need to develop something most people never build. Sensitivity without weakness. You read the room. You detect shifts. You notice patterns. But you don't react emotionally. You respond strategically. That's a different level. Because now you're not just handling disrespect. You're preventing it. There's a technique you need to install immediately. It's called frame anchoring. Every interaction has a frame. Either you set it, or you enter someone else's. If someone speaks to you casually, dismissively, like you're below them, and you accept that tone, you've accepted their frame. Now you're playing from under. Someone interrupts you. You don't speed up or fight for space. You stop talking. You look at them. Let them finish. Then you continue exactly where you left off, slower. As if they didn't exist. That's dominance. Because you didn't react. You reasserted position. Your calm becomes pressure. And pressure forces adjustment. Here's the truth most people won't say. You've been trying to be liked. That's why you tolerate things you shouldn't. You think being agreeable earns respect. It doesn't. It earns temporary approval. And approval is cheap. Respect is expensive. It requires risk. It requires friction. It requires moments where people might not like you. And if you're not willing to face that, you will always stay in a lower position. Smart people are okay with being misunderstood. They're okay with short-term tension. Because they're focused on long-term positioning. That's the game you need to play. Not moment-to-moment comfort. Long-term authority. Let's go deeper. Your internal dialogue is killing your external power. When something happens, your mind starts negotiating. Maybe I'm overthinking. It's not a big deal. I don't want to make it awkward. That voice is not wisdom. That's fear dressed as logic. And every time you listen to it, you weaken your standard. You need a new rule. If it feels off, address it. Not emotionally. Directly. You don't need perfect words. You need clear intent. I don't like that. Simple. Clean. Final. Now there's no confusion. And clarity forces respect. There's another layer most people ignore. Timing. Say it too early, you look reactive. Say it too late, you look weak. So you train your timing. You let the moment breathe just enough, then you step in. That pause. That's where authority is built. Because you're not impulsive. You're controlled. And control is intimidating. Let's talk about your environment. If you're constantly around people who push your boundaries, disrespect your time, lower your energy, you're not unlucky. You're misaligned. Smart people don't just handle disrespect. They reduce exposure to it. They choose their circle carefully. Because proximity shapes behavior. And behavior shapes identity. You can't build dominance in a weak environment. So you audit your circle. Who interrupts you? Who jokes at your expense? Who doesn't respect your time? Those are signals. And smart people don't ignore signals. They adjust access. Less time. Less availability. Less energy. Until the behavior changes, or the connection fades. That's not emotional. That's strategic. Because your energy is limited. And where you invest it determines your trajectory. Now we raise the intensity. You need to train your nervous system like an athlete trains their body. Because in high-pressure moments, your body decides before your mind does. If your heart races, your breath shortens, your posture collapses, you lose before you speak. So you train. Cold exposure. Hard physical effort. Situations where you want to quit, but don't. Not opinions. Presence. You walk into a room, and something shifts. Not loud. Not obvious. But felt. That's what you're building. And it starts with discipline. Not motivation. Discipline. Doing what you said you'd do when you don't feel like it. Waking up early. Working focused. Cutting distractions. Holding your standards when it's inconvenient. Because every time you follow through, you reinforce identity. I am someone who doesn't fold. That identity becomes automatic. And once it's automatic, you don't need to think in those moments. You act. Let's hit a realization. Disrespect doesn't destroy you. Your response to it does. Two people can face the same situation. One shrinks. One rises. Same event. Different identity. So stop blaming people. Start training yourself. Because once you change, their behavior becomes irrelevant. Either they adjust, or they remove themselves. Both outcomes are wins. Now picture this. 6 months from now. Same environments. Same types of people. But a different you. You don't rush your words. You don't break eye contact. You don't laugh off things that cross the line. You don't over-explain. You don't seek approval. You move slower. Speak cleaner. Hold stronger. And suddenly, people treat you differently. Not because they changed. Because you did. That's power. Real power. And it's built in silence. In repetition. In moments nobody sees. Now this is where most people fall off. They get inspired. They feel the shift. But they don't follow through. They go back to old habits. You don't wait for the perfect moment. You create it. Today. In your next interaction. You apply one change. Just one. You slow down your speech. You hold eye contact longer. You say no when you want to say yes. You correct something small. And you feel it. That discomfort. That tension. That's growth. Stay in it. Because that's where your new identity is forming. And once it forms, no one can take it from you. Now lock this in. If you're serious about becoming someone who commands respect without chasing it, subscribe to the motivational audiobook spot. This is not entertainment. This is mental training. Every word is designed to sharpen you, discipline you, and push you into a higher standard. Turn on notifications. Stay consistent. Because repetition builds identity, and identity builds power. Now step into your next interaction. And don't play small.